can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders you've heard of and some you've never heard of. The founder of Big League Chew, RX Bar, P90X founder Tony Horton, Einstein Bagels. Dave, I love hearing about the challenge stories. Not just, okay, I've been successful, been there, done that. But I remember Noah Alper of Einstein Bagels said he was selling religious tchotchkes out of the back of his trunk and was not doing so great in business. And then I love hearing those times, as well as obviously the success on the other end. And people sometimes, hopefully they realize it's like a 10 or 20-year journey, overnight success, right? And so I love hearing those things. And I'm going to introduce today's guest in a second, which we use their software. We love it. And so I'm excited to introduce it to you if you haven't heard of it. But before I do, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, which I co-founded with my business partner, John Corcoran. And what we do at Rise 25 is we help B2B businesses connect to their Dream 100 clients and referral partners and help them run and launch their podcast. Not just that, but so it generates ROI. Because we find, Dave, if someone does a podcast and it doesn't generate ROI, they quit. And so I don't want anyone to quit. I've been doing this for over 10 years. And it's not just business related. It's allowed me to form amazing relationships, and it's much more personal. And the reason I started podcasting, the inspiration behind it was my grandfather, who was a Holocaust survivor, and him and his brother were in concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and they were the only members of their family to survive. And the reason his words and legacy live on is because the Holocaust Foundation did an interview with him. And actually that interview is on my About page on InspiredInsider.com. So people can watch the full interview, but it's something that inspires me, motivates me. I watch it multiple times a year. And so I consider when I have a guest on, helping them leave a legacy, not just, we're talking about business, but help myself and my guests leave a legacy. And that's what it did for my grandfather. And so I personally credit podcasting as the best thing I've done for my business and my life outside of meeting my wife. But if you have a business, I believe you should have a podcast, period. So you can ask questions if you have them, even if you don't use us. Support at rise25media.com and check out rise25.com for more information. And I'm excited about introducing today's guest. And also he's talks about business and his journey. And it hasn't always been amazing along the way. But Dave Nevogt founded Hubstaff in 2012 out of personal pain and the need to be free. So we'll hear more about that. But they have over 34,000 businesses that trust Hubstaff. And they help companies like Groupon, Instacart, Ring Doorbell, ClickFunnels, many more. Dave's founded several multi-million-dollar businesses and says the software company was one of the hardest things he's ever done. Dave, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So why is that, out of everything, been one of the hardest things?
Oh, well, there's a lot of reasons really, but number one is that I just didn't have any clue how to do it or what to do, or how hard it was. Desktop software web software is a little easier. It's a lot easier actually, but desktop software is just so hard because there's so many different versions of operating systems, and you have to conform to all those different systems. It makes it very hard. So you have to find very smart people to be able to do that and build that code. Yeah.
Talk about that for a second, because there's a unique, a really good customer service aspect to your business. Yeah. And, I wouldn't say it's an expensive software. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We get email from someone who's like, hey, let's set up a meeting, and very high touch for not expensive software. So maybe just briefly talk about what the software is so people kind of know what Hubstaff is in general. And then we could talk about how you made sure to implement that customer service aspect.
Yeah. So, I mean, Hubstaff at its core is time tracking with data. So timesheet verifications. We try to streamline small businesses. And so anybody with remote teams, especially, which right now we're in this, pandemic, and it's really helped a lot of people, stay employed, and helped a lot of companies stay in business. So I'm proud of that. But, we primarily help remote teams or teams that are not together in a physical office. It's our number one kind of core competency. And that can be mobile, where, your team is, you get a construction company and you don't know where your employees are. We track location. We show location on a map, so you can see where your team is, even if you're all in Chicago, but you don't know, if you have one foreman that is on this job site, and then you've got, another job site coming over here, and you got somebody on the other side of town. You can't physically get in a truck and drive around. That would take 4 hours in Chicago, So,
You've experienced that before.
Versus a few seconds of logging in and seeing their location, making sure they are where they're going to be, how much time was spent with the client. So you can scale that up to large companies that need to know how much time is being spent with customers, for sales teams, all these different things. You roll it up into reports. And then we, for remote teams, e-commerce, agencies are a big one, software development, basically just understanding what is being done, setting priorities. You can see screenshots of your team. We have a lot of people that are half our customers are international, outside the US. And then most of our customers have employees or contractors outside the US. So, across time zones, we help manage that. Like I said, setting priorities, understanding what's being worked on, how the work's being done, who's the most active, that kind of thing.
Has there been a use case that has surprised you, or that you?
Yeah.
What surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, one, for example, is like hospitals needing to use the software to basically use it for the opposite. Most people want to use it to make sure to make sure that basically somebody is working a required amount of hours. So say you have a company that now has to go remote, and you want to make sure that your people are actually putting in 40 hours. You want to have that very simple use case. That's like a big primary use case of our software, making sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it, right? The hospitals use it, or, a lot of times for residents, they can only work 80 hours a week because of, fatigue. And so what they use it for is because the residents want to, or they don't, maybe not necessarily want to work more, but they're put in situations lots of times where they have to work more. Yeah. And so, or they're, kind of pressured to work more. And so hospitals are using this to actually limit the hours to 80, to say you cannot go over this time. You cannot track time over this hour range per week, which was interesting.
It's funny because one of the reasons we wanted to implement is to get more visibility on hiring, as far as when do we need to hire someone else, right? Yeah. So is this person starting to get at max capacity, or what tasks are they doing that maybe we need to separate out from their job? And so, right. I could see someone wanting to track the time, but we wanted to get more visibility, because you can, with the software, program different tasks that person, on an individual, on a daily basis, people are doing different tasks throughout the day. What are the different tasks they're spending the most time on? Yep. Also, customers wise, who's taking up most of the time? Yep. Right. An 80-20 rule.
Those are both perfect examples. Like with the customer, most companies have a very hard time tracking profitability. So that's one thing that we really help with. The nice thing is it all happens automatically. I wouldn't say automatically 100%, but kind of automatically. And you can tell how much time is being spent on various different customers or clients. And then basically, like a cleaning company, for example, a maid service, they'll have a one customer that their house takes 2 hours and they quoted for 2 hours, but it's actually taking, 3 for whatever reason. Maybe they have very detailed steps. Maybe the customer is just, just requiring extra time or whatever. That's that customer may be unprofitable over time, in a business of low margins, where another customer, they can fly in and out in an hour. And so you can adjust pricing based on that, or you can, go and, a lot of what we do is to help companies and business owners kind of like adjust. Another example, like you said, is I have an example like that as well, where managers and owners, they don't understand what their people are doing. It's very hard to understand what your people are actually doing. I mean, they could be, and most times it's nothing ill-hearted or anything.
Yeah, it's not a trust thing.
No, but not by the employee. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just trying to do their job, but they're doing it in a way. It's a management issue. And like, for example, when I ran my golf company, I had this guy. He was awesome. He was our lead developer. I said, "Why are projects always running so slow? Why can't things ever get done on time? Why can't projects get done on time? I can't figure it out. I'm doing everything I can to give you the resources to get these things done on time. I can't figure out why it's not getting done." So he didn't have a really good answer for this. We started tracking time, and all of a sudden you start tracking time to different projects. I realized in the course of just basically a week, and I had been trying to solve this problem for 1.5 years, 2 years. After a week of tracking time, I learned that he was actually spending like 40% of his time on customer service. So I can adjust then and say, right. Now he thought that was his job. He thought, and I was giving him that job unknowing that it was taking so much time, but he had to solve all the customer's issues. Why can't you log in? Why can't you reset your password? Right? Like things like that. Mm. I was paying this developer, right? Mm-hmm. 3 times the weight, right? And my projects were going slow because of one problem that I could have easily adjusted for, hired a customer service agent, right? And made an adjustment in business, become more profitable, get my projects. So until you're tracking time and you're getting data, it's very hard to understand these issues.
They've talked about implementing it into the team. People may be thinking, well, I don't want my team to think I don't trust them. And then all of a sudden I onboard Hubstaff. What's some language you recommend people using when someone is, onboarding the team to using Hubstaff?
Yeah. And I think, I think a lot of it comes down to the transparency of a manager or an owner talking to their people about how they run their business and what they need. So some companies might not need this, and some companies might not go down this route.
No offense to you for that, but I think everyone does need that. What I expressed was, I am personally going to use it. This is not for everyone, but I want to track my productivity and what I may be wasting time on, or what, having some visibility into that. So I think even as an owner standpoint, it's valuable.
That's right? That's one angle. What I usually kind of think of is like more along the lines of like, okay, I need this data as the owner, because honestly, we have to make better decisions as a company, right? We have to make better decisions as a company. And without you giving me feedback every day over Slack or over email, then I have to consolidate, and I've got to roll that into reports. And then I've got to, you have to explain your job as the manager or the owner, the things that you have to do. So I have to track down timesheets. I have to do payroll. I have to do, I've got to do invoicing of clients. This software is going to make all that automatic for my company. It's going to make my job is to grow the business so I can hire more people or pay you as the employee more money, right? I can roll that back into you. I need to streamline what I'm doing. So with Hubstaff or, many time tracking softwares or whatever, right? Like how much you pay employees, if you pay by the hour, especially, or how much you pay contractors, how much you invoice your clients. All of that happens automatically. And that's really where I think, most business owners, especially small business, really struggle with that. Now, if you're more in, let's say, e-commerce, where you don't have those issues, you don't have the issue of, how much to invoice a client. You just have to figure out how much you want to pay people. And if they're on a salary, right, then it does become more about, okay, I need to know what projects you're working on so that I can, understand how much time and how much cost is really going into that project. Is that something that has ROI for the business? So things like that, I think are a good angle to go.
So a conversation around transparency, why it's so important for the business, and then second, wow, it's benefiting them. Maybe it's saving them time because they were doing timesheets or tracking something and they won't have to do it anymore.
And I'm a believer that if an employee or a contractor can't understand that, if they say, well, still, I don't want this thing on my computer tracking what I'm doing, if that's what they're saying back to you, then it's like, then something's off, because I'm a believer that employees and contractors are everyone's they need to understand from the business standpoint that it's a trade-off, right? So they're getting income, and the business is hopefully getting ROI on that income. And if that circle and cycle is not happening, then something is off. So if all you're thinking about is your side of the equation, then you're not worried about anything else that happens in the business, then it's not a match. Like, that's not a person that I want in my organization if they can't understand that simple, philosophy.
Yeah. I want to talk about the core values a little bit, but to the customer service question, what made you decide to bake so much customer service and touch into a software that it's not like you're charging an exorbitant amount per month or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to that's actually pretty a very interesting conversation. I'm glad you experienced that. I'm glad that it was a good sounds like it was a good experience for you. I'm glad it was. So those,
maybe it's because people are on old desktop computers and you just needed it because people can't get it run,
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the thing is, like, that, customer service is your first line of defense. They are all true salespeople in their own way. And that is how we gain trust of our clients and a customer. So we can't afford, because like you said, our software is not expensive, so we can't afford to have a sales team. I mean, we could have a sales team, but I don't think we haven't found a way to make that profitable, because our businesses are mostly small businesses, and the average account pays us $50 a month, $60 a month now. So it's very hard to make those numbers work in a commission style or that kind of thing. Yeah. So, but what we do believe is that almost every single customer that comes in, they ask a question. They have to ask a question in order to get the software up and running, or it's very, very unlikely that they have no issues onboarding their team, because you have one owner. Our software, you have one owner, which is another reason why this was a hard business to start, is that you have one owner that's paying you, right? But then you have, on average, like 7 to 10 people that are not paying you, that are using the software day in, day out. That need to be, those are the team members are the ones that are using the software, that everything needs to work. It takes just pretty much one or two of those people to say, hey, this doesn't work, or there's issues, or I'm having this issue. No matter what they're doing, it could be just.
Yeah, it's really tough because you need every single person to be on board. And if you're getting negative feedback, it's going to the owner's going to start questioning the decision.
So you need to, yes, exactly. Because really the team members are the ones that are if they onboard and it's all good, then okay, now, and they get good feedback, then great, everything's fine. If you're making it a hassle, we need to make life easy for the owner, not harder. And you're making it harder if now everyone's got an issue, everyone needs help onboarding, right? And that needs to be, so our team needs to be really good when it comes down to helping people get through it. And we look at them as our salespeople, because we don't have salespeople. So they're really, so that's I guess that's where my mind's at there.
One of the things we did is I didn't want to make the decision off the bat. I wanted the team to research their top 2 choices and then come to us, because then if it's coming from them, they've researched it's easy or it's not easy, then it's much, then like you made the decision on it, and that's what you chose essentially to find it the best and the easiest. And so we'll figure it out on our end, but we wanted them to be on board with using
that's
it. That's
smart. Yeah, that's good to hear. That's interesting to hear. Yeah, I think that's what happens a lot.
And so from the customer service, talk about mapping that out, because you're very detail oriented, obviously. There's certain touch points you wanted with the customer service and, and how methodical you are behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because we have e-commerce, we've got agencies, we've got software development, we've got construction, we've got, all these different people coming in, and we don't have a software built specifically for any one industry. So it's hard to build those touch points exactly out. We do have that data. So we're starting to kind of, build out paths for our most popular kind of like people that would resonate with one of those industries or whatever. But it's been in general, it's just about, hey, if you want a demo, we'll give you a demo. If you need, in general, it's about the people that are coming in, how they like to learn, and us being able to offer whatever it is that they need, and being very upfront and honest, or not demanding, but just we want to make sure that they know where to get help if they need, and they need to get that help in the format that they want. Some of them want a PDF downloadable that they can email other people. Some of them want a video. Some of them want, a live person. We just make sure that they have the sources that they need.
I didn't know if there was some point, because I don't remember how long we had been on it, but someone reached out and said, hey, if you have questions or if you want to get on the phone, let us know. I didn't know if there was a specific point where you see people maybe need a little more hand holding, they're just starting to get their footing on it. Is there a certain time period?
No, not really. No. I mean, I think we just kind of set it up and, well,
it worked, whatever you're doing. So,
thank you.
How do you best hire a customer service? This is obviously integral into your business. That's your front line of not just support, but salespeople, sort of, making sure people are supported. How do you hire a good customer support person?
So we've got a process that we go through. And I think, a lot of it starts with like a lot of it starts with attitude. Everything starts with attitude, I think. You mentioned, your grandfather, like, what's that book? Man's Search for Meaning, I think it is.
Victor Frankl.
So I read that. Yeah. So like, everything starts with attitude, and it's like, you need to get people with the right attitude on your team. So in my mind, yes, I want somebody technical to be on the support team, but I can teach them. I will accept them on the team if they have just an awesome attitude, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make somebody happy. And they realize in their heart they can do that job. That's more important than being extremely technical, but thinking that the world revolves around you and right. So I think a lot of it starts with attitude. I can teach the technical part. We have training for that stuff, right? So start with attitude, and then basically we have a whole process we go through. But I mean, we'll put a job out and we'll get maybe, I don't know, because we're a remote company, we just get a ton of response. We might get 300 applicants in. And we do look for people that are technical and that understand, because you have to go in, diagnose a Linux computer. You've got to know what Linux is. You've got to know, right? You've got to know, you've got to understand how to go onto and download a debug app on your iPhone and go through the process of QA. That kind of thing.
I would not be hired by you, Dave. Yeah, I would not even pass.
Right. So there's certain hurdles, but after that, it's a lot about attitude. And then, so we go through, we might interview 5 out of that group of 300 and then make a choice. And
how do you bake in those questions or in the hire process that you measure attitude? Like if people want to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. So we do audit forms, right? That have, I think it's like 7 to 10 questions that you have to answer when you come through the application process. So we'll get those things, and you'll have, hey, give us a link to your LinkedIn profile. If you can't give me the link to your LinkedIn profile, chances are you're disqualified. Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like
there's certain disqualification.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process of, and if I ask you, please explain why you'd be a good fit for this role. Like, and you wrote me a 3-word, phrase, hey, 10 years customer service experience. That's not good. That's not good enough for us. Like I want a long paragraph. I want you to have the qualities that I want. So we believe that it's best to provide a one touch response. And I want to solve that problem the first time that you have an issue. I don't want, if we don't get a response back from you, that's actually really good. So in order to do that, we've got to provide a really long, right, like response that is very detailed, thought through. And I want to see that same response happening in your mind and that same attitude happening in your mind before that's one thing. I can train you in a lot of stuff. That's hard to train because you're going to resent that. If that's not your natural place or your natural way of working, then you're going to start to resent this job. And so it's about fit. And so we look for long responses there, and like, a detailed response, well thought through. So you can do a lot just with that,
So some of the ways you measure attitude is, one, you have a couple questions baked in there, but you see more of how they respond. So is it really long? Is it really detailed? Is it really friendly? Like those type of things.
Yes. Right. And then like, for instance, we'll say, we do most over email. So like you'll get an email address. What's your email address? Okay. So if we write you an email and you don't respond back for 3 days, you give me all this long, great response, but you're not responding back in 3 days. Again, that's not something that we're looking for. I understand you might have a job or whatever. We're looking for somebody that actually that's boom. They're responding back to you within, 7 to 10 minutes sometimes, like fast. And it's like, that's the person that's going to rise up and say, this is a person that has the attitude, the experience that we need. They're good enough for an interview.
Are there any other questions that you find, teases out like someone has a good attitude? Like you mentioned, what would make you a good fit? Are there any other questions that you find that you're really looking at in that interview process?
Not a ton. I mean, I ask a lot of personal questions, like personal meaning, like, what are your hobbies? I want to know your hobbies. If we're hiring for a developer, I want to know that you enjoy taking apart computers. Like, I want to know that you enjoy that. I want to know a lot of our developers are very active. They like to hike. They like to bike. They like to do that kind of thing. So there, it doesn't, there's no wrong answer. A lot of people like video games, that kind of thing, but at least I want to know that you're trying to go, do something for yourself, to better yourself. A lot of people we hire have tried to start their own businesses or even have businesses on the side that they're running. They've tried to build an app, or they've tried to go do something, or they contribute to open source technologies, or they, whatever it is that gets them going.
They have a passion for something.
Yeah. A passion for something, not just because I think that, that mindset of being able to go do something and tackle it is very important. And whatever that is, that doesn't necessarily matter as much as long as you're trying to do something. So that would be one thing that I look for, a lot. We also look for cultural fit. I like to see somebody that can laugh and have fun and smile, and ask questions. So yeah, that would be.
David, it's apparent, from the website and the company that transparency is very important to you. And you promote the core value of transparency, and you share your growth metrics publicly on the site. Talk about that decision to do that. That's I think for some people completely counterintuitive. Why?
Yeah. And that wasn't a huge decision. I mean, we made that decision back when we were first starting, like back when we were at zero. Right. So like
transparent 0, like no big deal.
Yeah. Exactly.
At that point, that's an easy decision.
Right. And the reason why we made that was kind of selfish, actually, because what we thought, when we were building this company was like, hey, we need a story, we need a hook. And it's a lot easier for us to get, attention from media and from anybody, somebody writing like yourself, for example. That it's just a lot easier. That's something that a podcast host or that a customer will latch a hold of and say, okay, yes, this company has customers. They've got 11,000 customers. I can see that. It's kind of cool that they share that. I'm now part of it's because, you don't know. If somebody is, somebody can put together a good website and have 3 customers, their software's crap. I like it that people can see we have 11,000 customers. That adds trust. So anything to add trust, anything that says, hey, I'm not hiding anything, right? So, but if we're writing a reporter and we're saying, hey, say it's from Indianapolis, I'm located in Indianapolis. Hey, we're a local Indianapolis company. Reporter doesn't care, whatever. We're software. We share our numbers. Now that piques that's kind of cool. That's different. So that was kind of the decision point. With that.
Later on, there's levels of transparency, right?
Yeah.
Like sharing your customers or social proof, sharing, some of the amazing companies that you guys have helped is social proof and credibility. But I would say it's more rare for people to share their actual numbers.
Yeah.
Was that a tough decision? And what was the thought process of, some people say, I don't really want our competitors knowing exactly how we're doing. So what was that? How did you come to that decision?
That's come about more recently now because people can see that we're growing. People can see. So there are thoughts there.
There's a moat, right? You need a lot of developers. You need a lot of customer service. So there's some moat there of they can't just, they're growing. Let's just hop into doing this time tracking thing. But still, there's still competitors out there.
Yeah. And there's competitors. A lot of people, certainly we have built a lot of competitors based on having that page up there for sure. And that's not a great feeling.
But you still keep it. So there must be a reason and why you do it.
It's just I think it's a matter of, for us, it's a matter of, we know how hard it's been to execute. We know how hard it's been to build what we've built. And we really believe that there's enough for we're not trying to, it doesn't matter in the end. It really doesn't matter in the end.
There's enough people to go around.
And if we believe that this world, that the industry we're in, the niche we're in is a growing niche, and we're really trying to help our customers. And if they choose us or some other product, I want what's best for the customer in the end. I really do. And I just think it's more about just helping the community and helping the customer. And if we're doing the right thing, which we believe the right thing is to listen to our customers and put our heads down and build the best product for our customers. The rest of it doesn't really matter. We'll be fine. If we can do that every day, we'll be fine.
Dave, one thing I read that struck me on your site is you said you've got to feel pain when you lose. An entrepreneur's life is all about surviving the pain and sacrifice that it takes to win until you achieve freedom. I don't do this for the money. I haven't been paid in 2 years. I do it for the freedom. Talk about that period where you hadn't been paid in 2 years.
Yeah. And that was a kind of a rough period, but luckily my wife was making income at the time, but
because people see, 34,000 customers, like this guy's made it, it was an easy journey, talk about that time where you didn't pay yourself for a number of years.
That's just a business. I think that was just a business decision. So, I had a few other businesses in the past. So I had some savings to live off of, first of all. So not everyone's in that same position. We actually had a lot of pickup. We had a lot of people coming in the door all during that time where, we weren't making any money. We weren't personally making any money at that point in time. We weren't paying ourselves. We couldn't pay ourselves. We were putting it back into the company.
You're building the infrastructure.
What's that?
You're building the infrastructure.
Yeah. And so, but all during that time, we were still getting good pickup from people coming in the door saying, I really like this software. I really like what you're doing. I really like the company. You've done a great job with the UI or whatever they're saying, right? And that we weren't advertising to get these customers. They were just coming to us. And so, I'm not being paid now, but I know that I've got a good thing going. I know that we've got a good thing going. And so it's worth investing in that. And we know it's a matter of time, and I think that's what it was about. It wasn't like we were just, I think there's a balance. I want to be, because a lot of time I do enjoy talking. I realized that founding a company is not an easy thing. And I realized that, there's a lot of founders that really fall in love with their ideas, and they spend too much time on each one on their ideas without making profit. Profit is the most important. I want to be clear about that. Profit is the most important, because if if every day is a choice that you make. And so at that point in time, I was making the choice, yes, to invest in my company because I felt really good about where we were going and what we were building. I had a good partner. I had a good team. We had good software. We had people coming in the door. But if I'm knocking on the door and no one's responding day in, day out that would not have been the case,
Yeah.
So I think you got to really understand, you got to see the demand in order to make that decision. At least I did.
How do you decide on pricing? It seems like a tough thing to figure out.
A lot of it's based on the market, what our competitors charge, meaning like T-Sheets. T-Sheets is a competitor of ours. They're a timesheet solution, right? So we're a timesheet solution. They're a timesheet solution. So, they're charging $5 a month or whatever they're charging. I don't know. I think they raised the price now to $8. I don't even know what they're charging right now, but at some point they were like $5 a month per user. And so, we're not going to be able to charge. Realistically, it's hard for us to charge 20. We can now because we have features they don't have for a specific niche. But it's hard for us to come in the door and charge. But we also do a lot of testing, so we'll test prices and we'll understand. Hey, this is too high or this is too low.
Yeah.
We have various different tiers. So, we have basic, which is $7 a month, premium, which is $10, and enterprise, which is $20 currently. And that's come through data. Most of what we do comes through data. So that has been tested to be the best option for us. Through
kind of like market demands with, you want to provide the best. I always think of it, people look for the least expensive option sometimes or free option. And I feel like I never want to go with those because I want the company, like you said, the profit to be sustainable, be around for a long time. So to sustain it, you really need to charge to provide, the right mentality is they're going to roll it back into customer service and the company is, what the market, demands. And also you got to pay the good people to provide the service too. So it's a really tough balance, I think.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things we've looked at. We've looked at, for instance, like offering like our timesheet solution, let's say timesheets, invoicing, timesheets, meaning if you're tracking on the web timer, for like say $3 a user. There's some things that we've looked at, but this is just what we've lined on. We used to be, for a long time, we were $5, and then we offered a premium tier, which I had some more, but a lot of it too comes down with, the expenses. Like a lot of that data that we track is just super expensive for servers and that kind of thing. So, because there's so many, like we have like right now, I don't even know the number, but it's something probably right now, 1.6 million screenshots a day taken that they're stored in terms of apps and URLs, in the millions per. So to manage all that data coming in is expensive because it's got to be stored. So it's like, how are you going to, so that's why we have to include certain things in that premium tier because you have to pay more to get that to literally to store the data.
Yeah. Dave, one thing that struck me with your story too is that it wasn't that your parents were super entrepreneurial. You had that bug, right?
Yeah.
And I thought there was a really, I don't know what that moment was like, but there was a moment where your dad offered to pay for a course for you,
Right.
early on.
Right. Yeah.
And that was out of his nature, it seemed like, to do that.
It was, I don't know what that, I don't know, I don't know why that, cause I don't know if he just said, hey, I was lucky enough to have him pay my way through college, which made it interesting because, he has been, you said they're not entrepreneurial. They're not, they're very risk averse. I'm more like risk taking. So, imagine that he had just paid my way through college. And I get the corporate job that he always has, that basically is the return on his investment, right? So your son now gets the corporate job, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm just not fulfilled in this job. I'm just pushing reports. Doesn't mean much to me. I'm not happy. I'm telling him this, on the golf course or whatever. And he's like, well, so this course was like $500, which wasn't cheap, because that's against his nature. He'll spend that on me, but not on himself ever, right? Like, I'm about a guy that wears a pair of shoes for 7 years before, you're right, 7 to 10 years. So, it's $500, and he said, if you promise me that you'll implement this, I'll buy this for you. And so I made that promise. I did implement it, and it paid off. That's what led me down this whole path. Yeah.
But he saw that you had that. What was it that you had that just kind of fire that you just wanted to do your own thing?
Yeah, I think that's just my attitude. It's hard for me to, it would be very hard for me to work for somebody else. I think that if it's a very good match, I could probably do that. But like, I just believe that like the most value I can create and give to the world is when I can start with something from zero, like nothing, just a thought, an idea. And that idea then is implemented and it's new. Like, I think that's value that I give to the world, and, then value comes back. And like, that's what I really believe that, like, and without if you're just pushing a report that somebody's telling you to create, and you're just doing what you're told to be do, that's not creating a ton of value. Right. It's just being a cog in the wheel, And so, and that's something we even try to do with our people. Like, hey, have an opinion, believe in something, tell us how to do things better, create value inside the company. Like, we really try to get people to do that, because I think that when you have that moment of being able to, like, hey, that was my idea. Now it's live in code, right? And I can see that out there implemented. That's what helps us to retain a lot of people and helps people to actually enjoy their job. It adds a dimension of pride to what they do,
Yeah.
It's
so interesting, that it comes full circle, because that was originally why you at least why you said, I didn't really like that job. I was pushing reports, but now you kind of solved that problem for people, because it does it automatically. Like, your software actually solves that. So it actually lets them be more fulfilled probably in their job. Maybe they would have been pushing more reports in their job. And
well, they're I'm solving the problem of them. They're chasing down timesheets. That's their job. That's the entrepreneur's job in most cases, chasing down timesheets, trying to get things organized. Like, I want them to live a better life and to not be so stressed out all the time about, the little things. If you're stressed about the big things, okay, that's out of my realm. I can't fix your sales problems with my software, but I can make your team more efficient and more, your whole business really more fit. Take away those admin tasks and make that more streamlined and efficient. And that's something that gives me pride, because I know that then they can choose how they reinvest that time and that energy.
Yeah. I think I want to encourage people, check out hubstaff.com. Also check out their blog, because they have a really cool timeline of different aspects along different milestones and aspects of their company, and so that are super interesting, including some of their choices to switch email platforms, why they dumped one and why they picked up a new email marketing platform. So there's just some really interesting posts that I encourage everyone to check out along your journey. And obviously I gravitate towards a couple, and one, so it was, I don't know if I should be surprised, but maybe I was, because most people don't mention it, but one of the decisions you made of starting a podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So what was that? Why did you make that decision? How did that help?
Yeah. And that was a cool, I think, thing to do. It was basically, our number one client and customer at that point in time were agencies. So we said, how can you reach multiple agents and agencies, digital marketing, people that had issues with everything I just mentioned? How much time is somebody working on specific projects? How do I invoice that? I'm charging, right? I've got people working for me, but I'm billing them out at different rates per client, right? I bill out for one client, I bill out at $30 an hour. For another client, I bill at $70. Same person. So you can solve those problems with Hubstaff. It's very hard to solve that problem and do the math and do the invoicing and things like that without having a solution to actually, figure that out. So the podcast came down to just a different channel for reaching that customer. What channel is that person interested in? And like, I'm a big podcast person in general, like, cause I listen to podcasts as I'm running or as I'm mowing the lawn or as I'm driving. Like, I do not like wasted time. Like, right. So, I don't sit there and, mow the lawn and, I'm
you
trying
have a book
to,
on, or you're
I'm just trying to think through things, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast, and it helps me think. A lot of times it's non-business related. It's, things about self-improvement or just,
what are your favorite podcasts?
Yeah. What
are your favorites? What are you?
So like, I like a lot of like I follow a lot of sports. So I listen to a lot of sports. Like I'll listen to like live sports, like not live sports, like in real time, but like, meaning radio shows, right? So they all have podcasts now. I listen to a lot of biographies and I do a lot of like war strategy stuff. I relate that to business a lot and how to build teams and how to motivate people and I listen to a lot of that stuff. A lot of history. So like that kind of stuff. So I just don't like wasted time. So I do that a lot. And, it just became apparent that was a new way of reaching a customer base that we didn't have in our marketing arsenal. We had the blog, but that was really good. The only problem is that we kind of, lost steam in terms of kind of like new people to interview. The whole point of that the positioning of that podcast was interviews like this is right here. But I had lost agents. We would interview agency owners to find out how their stories and how they grew their agency. And so I guess we just kind of felt like over time that people had gotten what they need. We had done because the podcast's still around where people can listen to the archive, but the new ones were kind of like it wasn't becoming better. It was kind of staying stagnant. So that was
your favorite interviews. Who were some of the favorite people you featured?
I didn't do the podcast. So I didn't do the podcast.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do the interviewing. So I didn't do the interviewing. They're usually customer of ours.
Yeah. So what about software tools? What are your favorites? Like obviously, excluding Hubstaff is one of the favorites. What do you use? You mentioned Slack. What other tools, software?
So, Hubstaff we have a project management tool as well. So like project management system. So, it's Kanban, so you can drag and drop that kind of thing. But I mean, so that is outside the realm of time tracking. So and we use that internally, but like that's where I would go is any project management. So that's number one. That's number one above everything else. It's like some kind of system where whatever you use, Asana, Task, Trello, whatever, just some way to document and blueprint, what, how you, do business. I like mind mapping software a lot. I use, flow charting and processes a lot. That kind of thing. We do a lot in Google Docs. We do almost everything in Google Docs. It's free. But all of our specs for software development are all in Google Docs. All of our specs for marketing, we use specs for marketing. That's really how we kind of develop what we're going to work on for the quarter is all in a Google Doc. And then basically we have a plan how we're going to implement that. And then we have, the assignment, and then we go to Hubstaff Tasks in our case, which is our project management tool, and basically assign those tasks out to people to have worked on. And that's how we communicate, and we comment, and you can mention people, and then you get it back. So, our business is made up of Google Docs, Hubstaff Tasks, Hubstaff, Slack is a lot of Slack is for culture and culture development in a remote company. And then we, obviously we have a lot of development, specific tools that we use, to build our software.
Yeah.
We use SEMrush for like search and information.
Yeah. Dave, last question, and really appreciate your time and sharing your philosophies and core values and your journey. Everyone should check out hubstaff.com. And I really believe, I should have had this a long time ago. Because it makes me personally more productive. What you track and what you focus on expands. And so if you're tracking actually the tasks you're doing and it allows me to figure out where should I best spend my time and what am I spending? You don't know that unless you know what you're spending your time on in the first place. And so it's been really valuable to see what am I spending time on. And also it keeps me on track from not wasting time because I see that thing ticking. And like, if I go off to Facebook, I'm like, well, I kind of have to stop that timer and now I'm not being productive. So it really helps me zero. So I believe if you're a staff of one, you should be using it personally.
Yeah. Lots of people do.
Yeah. Let alone obviously having an insight into what the whole team is doing, so I encourage people to check out hubstaff.com and check out their software, become a user, even if you're a person of one, I don't care who you are, so check it out. I always ask, since it's Inspired Insider, Dave, what's been a low moment that you had to push through, and what's been a proud moment, especially proud moment? What's been more of like a challenging time that you had to push through? There's been Hubstaff came about from a need, of just, I'll go back to that time where like, just the extreme stress of running a business and not knowing if what you're doing is right, not knowing, hey, you know what? I suck at management, like whatever it is. Coming to these realizations of saying, you know what? I need help. And like that moment for me was back when I was having my golf business. And it's like, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't make things, couldn't make things happen. I couldn't make the things that I wanted to have happen. I couldn't move things along faster. It wasn't bringing in the type of money it used to. It was kind of on the decline. And just having to kind of say, okay, it's time to move on from this. It's time to move on and do something different. And so, those are always, hard moments. You have something you run for, 9 years and it's time to move on, but just like your baby,
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing is just I advise always to just start something when you start to have those feelings, you got to start to move on, before the end is there. You can't, so you start to kind of allows you to kind of test the waters and see what might be your next thing. before the end has come.
I mean, that's what you did with your full-time job. I mean, you were mood lighting, waking up at 5 a.m, try and make something work so that you were, it wasn't like quick cold turkey, burn the boats. You're like, no, I just hop on the next boat. I didn't burn this boat. So that's a really smart.
I've done that with 3 different things now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. What about on the flip side? What's been a especially proud moment in the journey?
Yeah, I think pride right now. I think pride currently right now, like, because I'm going through this exercise right now, actually later on today of building out our future vision and where we want to go, which is hard for me. You've really got to sit down and kind of turn everything off and try to get in the mindset of where you want to go and what you want to do with the company and how you're going to make an impact on the world. And it seems like that's something that but it's always adjusting. It's always, I mean, at least it is like, it adjusts every, let's say 3 years or 4 years, that kind of thing. And as an entrepreneur, you never know if you're going down the right path. You never know if the path you're going down is right. Like, you never know if there's not that immediate feedback. You've got to go with what you feel like is the right thing to do. Right. You've got to have reasons for doing that. And so, I'm just proud that right now that, like, we have a company that honestly has helped people stay. There's been a lot of people that we've helped out, from people from, that we've introduced through our software and have had jobs and can feed their families and have the job that they want, dream jobs they never could have gotten if they work, let's say, they live in Idaho on a farm, and they have somebody from Chicago hire them, and now they can do what they can have a better life because of what we do. And that makes, just people from somebody from the Philippines might meet somebody from California, and now they have a great relationship and they're, able to have a job they never could have had locally, so that whole movement is happening now. It makes me proud that, like, we have a software that can be in the mix and in the middle, and really a leader in terms of helping to move that forward. And so it makes me happy that business owners can be happier, also using the software, because they get a lot of advantages as well, so, yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I totally appreciate you and what you've created. Everyone check out hubstaff.com. And I want to be the first one to thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.